So now it's time to do some wall units and then finish up. Let's put the window wall back in. Might as well put the floor back in. Hold that up a bit. Now I said that there was going to be a tall unit, a unit that actually sits on the worktop here. So we'll draw that in quickly. 50 millimeters, and then I think I said it was 450. So I need to put a unit in there. In fact, I'm on the actual kitchen. There is of course an end panel on this side, and I've not allowed space for it because there are actually, in the finished design, there are actually dividers between each of these units. They don't come all the way to the ground, but in the photographs you'll be able to see how I've done dividers, and it gives a sort of a semi-framed look. So for the moment I'm just going to, you'll have to bear with me, I'm just going to draw a simple tall unit without the end panel. And just imagine it's there, because if I put the end panel on, I shall have to shrink it by 20 millimeters, and it won't be the same size as the unit below. So I know that the unit is 1250 high. Let's and I believe it's going to come out about 400 millimeters. It does actually mirror the situation that the clients had before. Let's just find the middle of that, because 1250 is a bit high for a single door, so I'm going to put two doors equal sizes. The clients did have a excuse me, a freestanding door there, a freestanding cupboard I mean, and this is going to be a very similar arrangement, only obviously it's going to match the rest of the kitchens. Let's put a line there to represent a dividing line between the two doors. My offset tool, 75, push it in by 7 millimeters, and then do the same up here, F for offset. Let's do it again. Right, that's got it that time. Push it in parallel to that one. And there we are. That's pretty much how it looks. Only in actually, as I say, there's a divide. There's an end panel there. Now there's in the original kitchen. There's already a extractor over there. Perhaps I'll just quickly draw something in so we know what it's going to look like. It's probably around about, let's say, 800. Just very quickly, let's find a center there. We know that it's 900 wide, so 450 each side. That one 900. Let's say the bottom bit's about, should say 100. Just a very quick, pull that out by about 500. I don't like this sort of thing myself because I'm forever banging my head on them. Now the actual flue part, let's make that a group. 3 clicks, G. G won't work for you unless you do that procedure I showed you earlier. You would normally do right click and then go down to, in fact, if you ever make something into a group and you don't want it to be a group, what you need to do is to explode it. And it just means that it separates the various items that comprise the group. So if I click all three, right click, make group. I've been doing SketchUp for a long time, and I've got a lot of shortcuts, etc., which I use all the time. And I have to remember when I'm doing this to try and do it in the way in which is going to suit people who are beginners. Let's make that, this is just to represent the flue part of it. Obviously it's not in the actual middle there. I'm going to make it, whoops, I'm going to make it a group. Wait, when you see me get the select tool, this tool up here, I'm just pressing on the space bar, And I should really mention that when I do that. Just find the midpoint, let's move it along. There we are. We'll get rid of those guides now. And it looks something like that. Even if it's not something that I'm supplying or anything, I quite often like to model these things. It just helps to give the client a better idea of what their kitchen is going to look like. Right, now, wall units, I'm going to place these. This is obviously something that clients will be choosing, but in the absence of anything to the contrary, I generally set them at about 500 high. So the base of the wall unit would be 500 above the top face of the worktop. That could be a reasonable amount of space for things like bread bins and kettles, etc. And usually there'll be a pelmet, a lighting pelmet, coming down 50 millimeters to hide any lights that you might have under the wall units for lighting the worktop. And you'll always want lights there. It's very, very handy when you're working on things to have on the worktop, to have lighting where it's you're not going to be getting in your own light. And I say that's 500 high. Now we'll have a look at, we're obviously going to have the 50 millimeters spacer. So I'll put in 50 for that. And how much have we got here? We'll probably want to line up with the bottom there. So we've got 1785, and let's see, 1785, what can we divide that by? Can we divide it by 3? We can. It comes out at 595, which is will suit us very nicely. So if it came out to a slightly odd number, if I was dividing by 3, obviously quite a lot of numbers won't divide by 3. I'd probably just move that line in a little bit until I got, because I like where possible to have all the wall units of equal size, as long as that size is a decent size. The 1785, if I divided that by 4, that would be 446. 446 is still acceptable, but 595 will be a lot easier to use if you are storing plates, etc. in it. Then the plenty of width is a good thing, but we have got big pan drawers, so the plates will probably go in those. So height of wall unit, again variable. A standard is 720. To look like that. Depends a little bit on how tall the users are. I think in our case we're probably going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go to 800, and let's erase that one. And I said 595, so let's go 595. This obviously isn't how the cabinets are actually constructed. This is just a way of representing what they'll look like. Now, depth of wall units. This is a good question. In a small kitchen, you might want to have quite deep wall units because you'll need a lot of storage space, or as much storage space as you can. On the other hand, I like to keep the wall units quite shallow because they do tend to sort of crowd in a bit, especially if you have wall units all along. So in this case, we can have something of a reasonable depth because there is only the 3 wall units here. So I'm going to go for total depth of 350. Let's put that in. That's including the door. Let's see how that looks. This is one of the beauties of Sketchup. You swivel things around and have a look from different angles, and I think that'll do. We can always change it if necessary. So offset tool, 75, push in by 7. All right. Triple click, make group. Now I just want to have 2 more of these, and then good. Now in practice there would be an end panel here, but I mean there's all sorts of detail that I'm not putting in, as you might imagine. I'm not going to put an end panel in here because if I did I'd need to shrink these a little bit to allow for it. But what I probably will do is I will put in a lighting palette, because that will make a difference to the appearance of the kitchen. Let's just have it the full length there, which is 17 by 43, so it'll actually be 20 millimeters thick and 1785 long, and pull it down by 50 millimeters, and it won't actually come right to the end like this, so I'm going to push this in by 5 millimeters. I'll make that into a group, and it'll also be set in by about 25 millimeters, including the door. 25, and there'll need to be a return going to the wall, so rather than start from scratch, I'll just use a copy of this, get it by the correct corner, press Control, leave a copy, and move that in by about, select it, move it in by about 5 millimeters. This is the way I like to do lighting palettes, because all my kitchens are painted and I can quite easily paint that end. So I don't like to use miters if I can avoid it. They nearly always end up opening. But because they're actually painted, and they're actually painted to the correct, the pelmet's already cut to the correct size by me, I can just paint it as is and it'll look much nicer. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. I haven't put the fillers in, but let's say I'm sure you can imagine those. So at that point, that would be go off for submitting to the clients, and they could load SketchUp onto their own computer and use the mouse and swivel it around and that sort of thing. And if they wanted to, they could check on various sort of dimensions, use a tape measure tool. They can check the width of a cabinet. Or another tool that's quite useful is if you click on D, it'll actually draw dimensions like this, and they'll actually stay there. Let's do one here. I don't know why it's not. There we go. 845. And if you want to, you can change the font on these. For some reason, sometimes you'll find that the numbers are just a little on the small side. I'll just quickly show you how to do that. That's on Model Info. Dimensions, fonts, let's say maybe 16 would be a bit better. Okay, and the endpoints, these closed arrows, I don't generally bother with the arrows. I prefer to have none. And there's a useful tool here, select all dimensions, which I'm going to. You see they've gone blue. Update selected dimensions. Select all dimensions. Update. There we are. And that can be. You might find if you wanted to do a printout of this, it might be useful to have the dimensions showing. And if you do want to do a printout, SketchUp they'll just run through the procedure for doing that. Print setup. Properties, you'll nearly always want to use landscape for kitchen designs, and print preview. So we'll look at the print preview. That'll obviously give you a note. This is what the printout will look like. And if you might probably want to, if you're doing a design and you want to show it to somebody else, take it with you to a shop, something like that, you'll probably want to do 2 or 3 different views, and it'll also be very useful situation like this, very useful to make one of the walls invisible. That's a party wall. That will help. And I think that pretty much concludes this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you'll comment. And if you don't like it, then I guess that'll be a thumbs down. But it'd be nice if you did comment and say what you didn't like. And I'll try and put it right in the next one.